Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the FGLI podcast. Today we'll be sitting down with three of our newest freshman members of the team, Nicolle, Vidhi, and Joanne. We'll begin by chatting about their initial impressions of Penn from their first semester, and then transition into a conversation about imposter syndrome. Afterwards, we'll go into some conversations about fate and explore how it helps us contextualize and look back on our FGLI journey. In the end, was it all fate or was it all us? Stay tuned to hear what we think in this next episode of the FGLI podcast. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the FGLI podcast. Today we have some new members of the team. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name is Vidhi. I am from Athens, Tennessee, and I am the publicity manager on the FGLI podcast.
Hi, my name's Joanne. I am a freshman here at Penn, and I am from Brooklyn, New York, and I am a new host of the FGLI podcast.
Awesome. Nice. So before we start, we just wanted to do a quick icebreaker to introduce all of the new team members. And the question for today is, what snack best represents you?
Okay, in terms of snacks, that's low-key hard. Like, I've been thinking real hard about this question, like, for a while, too. But I'm gonna have to say, like, probably, like, strawberry Pocky. I don't know why, but it's probably because ever since I moved here in college, all I've been eating for snack-wise is, well, Pocky. It's my go-to, man.
For me, I'm going to have to say watermelon because I've been eating a ton of watermelon while I'm here.
Oh, like Commons watermelon?
Yes,
Commons
no,
watermelon?
okay. Hill watermelon, like that hits.
No, you're so right. Like, I feel like in terms of, like, dining hall, like, fruits, like, you just can't mess up fruits, first of all.
Wait, yes you can.
No, yeah, sometimes you
Have
can.
tried
What do you
the
mean?
honeydew at Commons?
Sorry?
Oh, I have.
Like, and then, like, sometimes it's, like, rancid. The honeydew, or, like, the
The
candle.
honeydew?
Yeah, it's like,
I feel like...
And it starts smelling a little weird.
Okay, you're right. You go. What about you, Nicolle?
Oh. Nice. Okay, so could each of you tell us about your FGLI experience and why you joined the FGLI podcast? What kind of motivated you to join?
yeah, so for my FGLI experience, my parents have not went to college, so I am first generation, and I grew up in a low-income household. But alongside with that, I think most of my experiences have been through verbal communication. So I really enjoy the experiences of being FGLI and like hearing stories and experiences. So that's one of my main reasons of joining FGLI podcast.
So the reason why I joined the FGLI podcast, well, actually, let me answer the first question first. So in terms of my FGLI experience, my parents also didn't really attend a university, so that also makes me a first generation student. I'm also the eldest in terms of like sibling wise. I have a younger brother, so I don't know. So in terms of like the FGLI experience, it's also something like that I'm really proud of because I get to be, I guess, a mentor and still be like have that sister role within like my younger brother's entire like high school experience and beyond, like to be able to now have the knowledge to help him throughout, whatever there is to come in terms of his entire like life and what's ahead of him. Like, I'm glad to be that like next role model for him. And that's also why I joined the FGLI podcast. I want to hear stories, and I feel like, I don't know, there's something like really really sincere about like just listening to other people, like understanding the stories and the upbringings of like each guest on the podcast. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see like what's to come in these next few years.
Yeah. So for me, for like the first question for my Figley experience, I grew up in like a really low income place over there in Peru. And then when I was like 14, 15-ish, 14, I think, I came over here and I lived with a guardian who also hasn't gone to college. And it was like a whole different area. I've never been here in the US and trying to figure out like how school works and everything. And then in my senior year, how college applications work, and realized that, oh, my whole school had only one counselor. So there was not a lot of like information that she was able to provide us with. So so I had to figure out like everything like quest bridge applications, FAFSA, all of that basically on my own. And it was like really like it took me a lot of time. It was like you had to do so much research to make sure that you're doing like the correct forms and that you are like filling up things properly. And then I had to like chase down the counselor to be able to like get signatures and to be able to get my transcripts and all of that. So I've seen, so it is like a really, so being English has like really impacted me up until like now up here in the Penn. I see the differences. I see like how those differences are shown through like the general Penn population. So with all of this knowledge that I now have, I would like to like maybe help somebody else, like maybe like one thing that we say sticks with someone and helps them. That would be really good. Also, I do have an interest a lot in like media, so this really balances both. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with like the confusion and like the fear when filling out like everything on the college application, whether it be FAFSA or like CSS profile, just everything related to tax returns. Because I remember when I was filling it out, I was scared that I was like gonna commit like tax fraud or something by like filling it out wrong. But yeah. Okay, so with all of you being freshmen so far, right now,
Yeah.
what has it been like just being at Penn as a first gen low income student?
So it is certainly different. It is certainly an experience that on my first day, like even before like moving in, I saw, because like on my first day here at, like over there at Pennsylvania, I went to the bookstore. It was just me and my aunt getting coffee, and the president like walked in. So that was the day that Joe Biden went to do a visit to the Penn bookstore. So I realized, oh, this is like a whole different environment. This is so much. And then like in general, it just keeps surprising me, and I realized that yeah, like then you can really like see um how like the differences in like a social class of somebody growing up has molded them to be in a way, and how their views of situations are very different than the ones from like a figure student. For example, uh, I recall like I recall hearing people saying that, oh, they didn't really need to go to college. They knew that they were going to get a job or something like that in their parents' funeral, and that just like left me speechless. So it's an experience, and it takes a while to like get accustomed to, but but yeah, but that's how Penn is mostly.
I remember when I first talked to you, Nicole, you said that you wanted to explore Philadelphia outside of like the Penn bubble. So you were walking around Philly, just like exploring the different neighborhoods. Could you tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about that as well and what that was like?
yeah. So it's especially between like University City and like Philadelphia as a whole, because University City, it's really like, as I said, like the Penn bubble. It's everything is like so polished and something, and everything is like so, I don't know. You can see it when you compare with Philadelphia, especially more like rural Philadelphia or like other neighborhoods that are not just like center city, which are still like really like catering towards like Penn. You can see a lot of things like revolve around Penn. like the institution, especially like the image of the university. And then like how we learned in like my sociology class, how like what now University City is has been basically like rebranded from like it's like an old like black neighborhood, and because of like the construction of the university, like that neighborhood like now is what University City is. And I don't know, there's just like so much contrast between like Philadelphia as a whole, Philadelphia, like everything that makes Philadelphia like really unique, and a lot of the things that are seen at Penn. So I find it really interesting to think about, to like observe Philadelphia cities outside of just like outside of just like University City, especially like Chinatown. Chinatown is it's a good example, I think, of that. Like we went on a tour like to Chinatown a while ago, and it was certainly super different and surprising. So yeah, that's something that I do like to focus on.
Honestly, like since moving in, I'm thinking like it's honestly like it's been a really hectic like experience. And what I mean by that is that like I'm kind of like when I first came, that's when I started to realize like wow, like first of all, I'm now in like a huge community, and what I mean by that is that there's literally students that come from quite literally everywhere, like multiple countries even, and like all around the world, all around the states. And just that in itself, it's such an interesting, I guess, experience, because there's going to be people who are not like those that you met in high school, like those that you are in, like those people that you've met or have been friends with in high school have practically almost like similar upbringing to you, because they lived in the same area, they have like similar lifestyles. But everyone that you meet now in college, like these are all people that are going to have a different experience when it comes to even being a Figley student, or being from a different area, having different lifestyles or habits that you do. But even so, like I kind of managed to bond with everyone in a way, and I'm really happy that I do get to have that sort of experience. And I just really like I love learning about like what other people have done when they were in high school, when they like lived back in like their hometown, like not in Philly. And when it comes to Philly, like I really like enjoy the Philadelphia experience. Like I think I admit that I do have a bit of advantage because I have lived like near the city, like in New York City, through like when I was growing up. So when I came to Philadelphia here for UPenn, it's kind of like, oh well, it's quite similar living. Like, oh, I know how to cross the streets, and like, I guess like just be part of like an urban community. And I also like, I guess, like, I don't know, exploring as well. But really honing in on the entire Figley experience. Um, I'm gonna admit that when I first came to Penn, I did not know that there was a whole status or whole program catered to Figley students. I thought that when you first applied to college, like if you were first gen, you're just first gen. There's nothing else that really came to that. But until like I came to Penn, I started to realize that like wow, there's literal opportunities like awaiting me. Like there's these programs, there's these initiatives, there's like a whole mentorship program that I'm now a part of. Like I'm a mentee, and also like the fact that we also have a Figley podcast like this, just to I guess highlights all the experiences of other Figley staff members at Penn, or just overall like people who have been Figley students and have experiences just like us. That in itself is such like an amazing thing, and I'm really happy that that I'm experiencing this, and it's only been like 2 months. So again, like just as I said for the last question, like I genuinely like am really optimistic to see like what's to come in the future, and to see like what opportunities there will be. And another I guess last thing is that like I also just recently like learned that the Penn First Plus was like pretty recent, like what, like 6 years, 2018. So yeah, it is like that's really new. And to see that like now that there's some sort of recognition for Figley students, like yeah, I'm pretty optimistic to see like how that grows and to see even the Figly community like be much bigger as I am edging, graduation at college.
Yeah, I think both of you guys made some valid, very reasonable points, but I feel like coming to Penn itself is such an experience. I come from a smaller town, so I did not like know public transportation. I didn't know diverse people in a way. Like a lot of people at my school were predominantly white. And so whenever I came here, like it's so cool seeing how much diversity that Penn has, but also like there's just so many things happening all at once. You can choose who you want to be, what you want to do, and wherever you want to go. Like back home in high school, it's like you kind of are set on a path and you just do what you're told. But here, like you're choosing. If you don't like something, you don't have to do it, etc. But I think being in college, it's very hectic for sure. There's so many things that you could be doing and not should be, but like there's just so many opportunities at Penn. And I have to go back to what you said, but PFP has like been so valuable coming to Penn because I did not know that there was such like a community for being first generation. And I feel like that isn't valued enough in other parts of the world. And it's really nice how Penn does do that. And some of the experiences here are so unique. It's just, I don't know, you just have to be here to know. But Penn First Plus, I was fortunate enough to be in PFP, which was a summer program that I was at. So I made such a huge community and like have gotten to know Penn a little bit more than like all of the other students here. But honestly, I really don't know what I would be doing if I hadn't been a part of that. And just having like PFP, like just being able to go in there, talk to anyone if you need anything, and knowing that those people really do want the best for you and are there for you in every step of the way. It's really nice to have that.
Cool. Was there any like particular challenge that you guys faced just by nature of being just like first and low income coming to Penn that maybe you weren't expecting before?
I feel like I don't think I was expecting imposter syndrome, but I feel like that is certainly something that I faced coming here because whenever I was in high school, like I was I was valedictorian. I had some great achievements, but you come here and you're like in a culture shock of like, oh my gosh, there's so many smart individuals here. And it's like you don't feel like you truly belong or that you've made this accomplishment. But I feel like that was one of my biggest struggles when I first came here. But yeah.
I definitely agree. Like, I think, like, right off the top of my head, like, imposter syndrome has been huge when I first came here. Like, first of all, like, I also admit that there are some accomplishments that I'm very, like, well proud of, like, being able to, be in a high school where there's the existence of, like, teams that compete, like, outside of, the states, or things just like, I guess the presence of internship opportunities being available for me. But like once I came to Penn, I kind of sort of realized that like, hey, there's areas that actually probably have like a higher advantage, like in terms of like, I guess income and like being able to actually pay for like very like private lessons and such. But I admit that like as I grew up like as a Figly student, like also being a low income family, like we can't really afford that. Like we couldn't really afford even like the highest like technology. Like I literally don't have a laptop for college. But yeah, like the accessibility of like different like resources or having all of these connections. Like I know LinkedIn is a huge thing that's kind of like in college, or at least like what I'm seeing right now in comparison to just like very like modern, I guess, like social media like Instagram, like in compared to that, like LinkedIn is pretty big here. And to see people who already have connections to some like really big companies or even having like family members who have all of these advantages, like it kind of sucks, I guess. But it's something that I'm just like coping with and such. And even in the classroom, like there's people who have background in like lots of subjects and have the opportunities to partake in really like, I guess, intricate like not experiments, but like research, or like in terms of like STEM, or just overall like have those opportunities to, I guess, enhance their own background knowledge on some of the courses here at Penn. So like I guess for one example, like economics, like I guess you can argue that like I guess I don't know, I'm trying to think right now, yo. In terms of some classes like economics, you can say that like there can be people who already have like experience, like background experience in economics, like as a job, as internship opportunities, as after school programs, or even have parents that quite literally work in that field. And going on to the topic of having like parents who have so much experience, I also feel like imposter syndrome, like as a FGLI student, where like my parents are like, as a low income student as well, like my parents don't really have the experience that can help me with my own courses. Like, how do I word this? Like, let's say for my microeconomics class, my parents, like, they don't know much about the topic. So, of course, I don't really have the help that I would like or would be an advantage to me in comparison to students who probably have, like, family members who can totally help them in that field. Or maybe something like in a math course. Like, my parents, I think throughout high school, I've kind of like been doing math on my own, because when I do ask for help, like my parents, like they always apologize because they don't really know how to help me. And I also admit that there is also sort of like a language barrier between us, like me growing up like in America in comparison to my parents who grew up in China. So within that, like I always feel bad about it, and it's something that's really personal to me. But yeah, like in terms of like the FGLI experience, like there's like definitely people who have like a huge advantage, and as a FGLI student, like that is sort of a challenge that you have to face, and as well as imposter syndrome. Like, wow, you feel like because of the resources you didn't get like growing up, it kind of like, I guess, interferes with the experience that you would like as a college student. I don't know.
Yeah, I think something on that like
Yeah.
same line is like pen face at Penn is so real. Like I'll walk around and like see people and I'm like, I know you have your entire life figured out. Or like just some of my friends or like some of the people that are in my class, I'll hear their conversations. I'm like, that's crazy that you like know what you're doing. You already have such an established foundation. And I feel like I can certainly relate to your experience of like not having parents who can help you in the topics that you want to. My parents actually didn't finish middle school. Both of them didn't. So there's like a huge gap between what they can teach me, what they can help with and everything. But I feel like my parents have been good supporters with me, and I feel like that's been very valuable. And I hope that like, I feel like I also do teach them the stuff that I learned in college. So that's really nice too.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I also do the same thing. Like, once I learn something, I'm just like, all right, guys, I'm gonna teach y'all too.
Yeah.
Because if you guys did not get, like, the college experience or high school experience that I did, then I will give that back to you. And I hope that that's my way of giving back to my parents after all they've done for me, like, supporting me and such. And I'm really happy for that. And to also kind of, like, going back to what you said about, I guess, like, resources and stuff, it's also like, or like having like knowing people who probably have their life ahead of them, like it's also something like as a FGLI student, like something that I guess, I don't know if you guys have felt this before, but something like it's kind of like you don't really know like what to do because there's issues like finances and such. Like you got like, I have a dream, I also have like dreams of going to graduate school or like law school, med school even, like, or getting a PhD and like doing all these big things. But I think like one of the main problems within having those dreams is the finances. Like, first of all, like, can I even afford like being here at Penn, like being an undergraduate, like let alone going to a much higher like education, like graduate school. Like I like to have that worry in the back of my head. Like, I don't know, sometimes I try to not let it scare me and just enjoy like what's happening in the present rather than to worry in the future. But it's always in the back of my head, like, what if I can't do what I want to do? And even if I say I have my whole life ahead of me, do I really, like, in reality, like, can I actually like chase those dreams without that worry of finances.
I agree. I agree with all of your guys' points. I've been like nodding here silently in my head. All of them, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I feel that. But yeah, no, imposter syndrome is like such a big one, especially like over there at Penn. Uh, because I I feel like the thing is that before I applied to Penn, I didn't really know about the university a lot because my school only focused on teaching us about the schools within the state, and like it was literally just within the state as such that like an assignment was go you have to go and visit your school for like participation in like one of the one thing over there at school, one of the classes. And when I told them that my school was in Philadelphia, they didn't know what to do because they had not seen a case like this before. So they ended up waiving the assignment for me because I couldn't afford a plane ticket to Philadelphia for no reason. So yeah, no, I see that, and I've been experiencing that ever since like I left high school. To the point that I ended up asking like if I could see my admissions like transcript decision or whatever, like that thing from my FERPA records, because like I the imposter syndrome is really like strong, especially being like a FGLI student, and I am highly aided. That's the only reason why I have a laptop, because I'm like a really highly aided student. So they gave me a laptop as part of like my financial aid plan, and I don't know, it's just like a constant reminder. It's just like a constant reminder, like every time that I go to class and I see like people not really like caring or like or just doing like anything else while I'm there trying to take notes as much as I can with my school provided laptop. I'm like, oh wow, this is such like a different like reality for each one of us. And like that thing about like the future, yeah, like I have never thought about like doctorate school or like a doctorate or like law school or like anything else like post-grad education, because I know that it is easier to like find aid for like undergraduate. However, like universities and institutions make like a lot of their money from like master's programs and such. So I just have never considered it because like of the financial burden that I would definitely have to like take out loans and everything. And so yeah, no, that those are like really things that like have to like my mind, especially like as a FGLI student. And I don't know if they will like ever go away. I doubt it. I doubt that they will like ever go away. But it's also like a constant reminder of like where I come from and like the things that like have happened up until that moment. So that like I'm there and everything. So because there have been like so many concept like so many like coincidences that have helped me get over there, because like when I received the admissions letter and the person who read my admissions letter told me about like the things that they like saw in my application, like mostly they mentioned my jobs, especially my jobs, and also yeah, my jobs especially because I have worked in like a lot of different places, and I mentioned that one of my experiences were related to that and people who I had met at my jobs. um I remember like that summer of like 11th grade, I was working like 50 hours during the summer because I was just trying to save as much as I could for college, because I didn't think I would get any financial aid, because my FAFSA was not my FAFSA had been I started like trying to like fix the FAFSA stuff like that like 11th grade and then 12th grade, and then it kept not going through because of my parents, because since they are not in the country and my legal guardianship had already ended, it just made like a whole complicated situation. And I didn't think I would get into like any college out of state that would offer me financial aid, because that's what I had been told by my counselor, that I probably wouldn't get to like any college like that would offer me a lot of financial aid. So I should just consider going to the university here of my state. So that's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, then I'll probably just have to go like over here or go to the community college. But then the community college didn't offer me any financial aid. So then I didn't know what to do. So then, I, when I ended up getting into Penn, it was like, it was, it was such a like a weird and surreal experience that, I don't know. I still don't feel like I properly like deserve. I feel like there's so many other kids who I have heard that they're like, oh yeah, it's been my dream school, or oh yeah, I toured this school. I really love this school. I really wanted to get into this school when I didn't know, and I didn't know about this school until a year ago. So it's just it's just confusing. It's just really confusing. So I would say that's how I would describe it. Like one of the things that have like being ever present on my FGLI experience has been the confusion.
I feel like I can relate to that a lot. I think before senior year, I don't think I knew that Penn was like a thing, or like I didn't know that, well, like many colleges, like the names of many colleges as well. Like I think the only ones I knew were like Rutgers, because it was just like in New Jersey where I'm from. But I thought it was really interesting, Nicolle, what you said about the imposter syndrome not really like ever going away, just because having talked to just like a lot of people, including professors as well, they've said that it's a complicated emotion where you feel like you don't belong, but you also want to feel proud that you've made it so far. And it's this like push and pull that kind of just like sticks with you, whether or not you're like a undergrad, a grad student, or just like in your career. There was one professor I talked to where he said that even though he became like a professor, like a tenured professor, he was scared that one day the administration was going to find out that he was an imposter and then like fire him. So it's a complicated emotion that I feel like is definitely super overwhelming. So I was curious how you guys have kind of grappled with that as well. Just knowing that like it's all kind of like hitting you guys like at once, and I guess it's only been like 2 months since you guys arrived. What that experience has been like.
Yeah, I can certainly start. I think my main thing was I feel the confusion that Nicolle was talking about, because I feel like I know that I deserve this, but deep down I'm like, there's people that are more qualified than me at Penn, and that's the fear of like, what if I'm not good enough? And like holding that up, like I feel like I'm constantly holding myself up to those standards, but knowing that like coming to Penn is an accomplishment itself. Like not many people get into Penn, and this is like I like sit and think about it so many times of like how fortunate I am to have like be on Penn's campus, because I remember I was actually like searching up colleges in 6th grade. So I've had this long history of like researching for colleges and stuff, but Penn was never on my list. And I think that like sometimes I just think about how I always plan out that much, but like I ended up at a college where I like really didn't see myself, and now I'm like doing amazing. And I think just thinking of like how proud little me would be, because there are days when I've thought about being in college, walking on campus and being like the academic weapon that you see. So I think that's really helped me, just knowing that like I've worked so hard for this, and this is something that I've looked forward to for so long. And there are days whenever I'm like, this is so hard, I'm struggling, I don't know what I'm doing. And I think that's when I really just have to like call up my mentors, because I know that they went through the same thing. And I don't really mean to like give a shout out, but my mentor from PFP, Angel, she's really helped me, because she really like, we have such vulnerable conversations, but like I feel like just having someone like that where you can go and talk about things that you're struggling with, as well as like friends. I feel like my friends have really helped me to realize that I'm here, that I'm part of a community. And I think Penn itself has such a strong community. Like we were talking about earlier about being in PFP, or like being in Penn Cap and like working with P1P. There's so many things that FGLI students can do and like interact with other first generation low income students that really helps. Like having community to talk to has been like my number one way to like not feel imposter syndrome so much, at least.
For imposter syndrome, like I definitely like I have like a very similar experience as well. Like when I first started researching colleges, which actually was my like freshman year of high school, like that's when I started to worry a lot more because that was like low key my academic weapon fit like era. Like I was starting out because I was just like, wow, okay, let me step my game up. And I never really expected that I would actually be in UPenn. Like I also originally did not think that like, okay, is UPenn going to be like up high on that list? And now to realize that like now looking back, I'm just like, or like if I was little freshman JoJo now, like she would be like, UPenn, girl, what'd you do? What did you do for this? Like she would be so proud as well. And I just feel like it's a feeling that's like, wow, like I'm here and I'm still experiencing those emotions. Like sometimes I just get that like quick realization that like, wow, I'm really in an Ivy League. Like sometimes I forget that too, and that's when I like realize all of the resources and all the access to like mentors, professors, and just like overall like services that I have. Like wow, it's such a huge accomplishment, but deep down inside of me, like sometimes I feel like I really don't deserve all of this. Like I feel like I don't have like the same like self-discipline as I do to my own peers. I feel like there are like courses are like really challenging, and it kind of makes me feel like wow, like am I even smart enough for this? Like do I like what did I do to be able to like I guess, or like what made the admission officers think that I have the brain to do this? Like all that pressure like going on to me, like it just, I don't know, sometimes I also get that feeling of like wow, like I'm struggling, what the heck do I do, and like how do I like move on from these feelings and actually like be more proud of myself, because I'm like, as I admitted before, like freshman me would be so happy but also so confused on why is current me like struggling, or just feels so like I guess sad sometimes when it comes to like realizing that like or like experiencing like the imposter syndrome in me. But in the end, like I also agree that the services here for FGLI students, or overall in general, like having all of my friends to also relate with me with these experiences, and like being able to talk to everyone because everyone's so inviting, they're so nice, and it's really amazing. Like yeah, it's really amazing. Quite literally, it's amazing. Like no other words can really explain like the feeling of being part of like such a large community that relates to how you're feeling. And I guess like that in itself, like that also helps me cope. Like I'm realizing that like, hey, I'm not the only one that's experiencing these emotions, and that also kind of makes me feel better about myself, because then that means I have a community to be able to talk to without feeling like I'm just being ignored or no one's really relating to me in that way. But yeah, and heading back to what you said, Peter, about like, I guess what the professor said, like that low-key like hit me on the spot. Like I feel like that was such a perfect like one like sentence in a nutshell of what imposter syndrome is like, which is, I think you said like you kind of force yourself to feel like more accomplished. You try to force yourself to feel better about yourself because you are in an Ivy League after all. But in reality, it's very forceful. It feels like deep down I still don't really deserve this. But I hope that maybe in future like I can come in terms with these emotions and kind of just like go on with life. Like, hey, I'm here now. I can't go back. Only thing I can do is just move forward.
I think just adding one thing to what you were talking about earlier about like what AO saw on your application. I remember whenever I got my application decision saying that I was accepted into Penn, I spent the entire second week rereading my application and trying to pinpoint something that like made them be like, wow, I want this girl to be here. But I think something that also like I feel like you guys could also benefit from like in facing imposter syndrome is like to think that there are people who read your application and said that this person has potential here at Penn, and that they were literally reading your stuff and they said, this person will do good. This person is someone that we want to have at Penn. I think that's certainly something that's also helped me, just knowing that there's people behind me that I don't even know that see value and potential in me to do great things in the future.
I would say, see, I'm not as good as you guys as battling imposter syndrome. I just kind of try to suppress it and not think about it, and just busy myself with other stuff to avoid thinking about it or dealing with it, which is not the best. But it has certainly manifested in not being the best thing, because then when I actually have to think about it, it just it's so taxing and it just takes so much from me. And that thing about reading application to see the specific thing that made them see that, yeah, I want that person over there. Yeah, I did that, and I don't even know. I still there's I don't really know, because when I did the ride, what was it? The ride a thank you note or something. I wrote it to my ex coworker from Subway. So I was okay, because I didn't even know what this university was. So, and I had to do 15 applications within that week, because I thought I had to do 15 applications. So I did. So it was a stressful time. And I didn't have to. I could have just done one, but regardless, so yes, I was just kind of I was kind of going insane at that point. So I wrote that one. I feel it was really honest. I feel it really it really showed a lot of who I am as a person, and especially regarding my writing, which is the thing that for me is one of my strongest points, I would have to say. Writing regarding that part of my life, regarding things related to work, things related to experiences that have come from that, and experiences that have led me into certain different ones. I try to focus on that. I try to see even though there's still that feeling, and even though I should probably deal with it, I should probably talk with somebody from PFP, or talk with somebody else with low income, instead of just spending that time doing something else. I should probably do that. I really probably should. Or I haven't yet, so I cannot say that I have any much advice on dealing with imposter syndrome. Or I try to keep in mind that, well, this is all something that's tangible. This is something that I'm experiencing right now, and this is something that it's been 2 months and I haven't been kicked out yet, because they realized they made an error in admission processes. So I think it should be okay. I think I'm there. I'm matriculated. I was so concerned that my Penn card wasn't going to work on the first day, because I thought that it just doesn't work, because I'm probably not even an admitted student here. And then it worked, and then I went to class for the first week, and I was oh. And then I had the Canva, and then I got the email, my school email. I was wow, this is actually real. So yeah, so I don't know. I'm trying to deal with it a little bit more, but actually thinking about it, or thinking about it enough that it is not taking a lot from me mentally, but thinking about it enough that it's not something that I am suppressing anymore. So yeah, that's kind of my answer. It's not really how dealing with it, but yeah, it's kind of how it is currently for me.
I really liked how you mentioned that imposter syndrome can be super taxing as well, as mentally, potentially physically as well, where I think it's super easy to tell yourself to not compare yourself with others, and that like comparison is the thief of joy, all of that stuff. But there's something like always in the back of your mind that's telling you, oh, this person is like 5 steps ahead of me, or why didn't I know why didn't I know about this opportunity before, when it was just like standing like right in front of me. And at the end of the day, it's just like you kind of like telling yourself these things, but also like you trying to like push it like away, which is part of like why it becomes super mentally taxing. Like for me, I don't think I like also have completely resolved like imposter syndrome yet, just because like I said before, I would be like, okay, don't compare yourself with others, and then at the same time I'm like, but this person is doing XYZ and I'm not, and then they are getting all of these opportunities. But I think it's really special that you guys are already like repackaging like all of that into kind of like a more like uplifting, like optimistic kind of perspective. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with this, but I completely agree with all of you.
I can certainly add something there about like using the resources here at Penn. I feel like there's just so many things that are available to me that I sometimes struggle with feeling like I'm not taking advantage of all of them, or like I missed out on a deadline. And I feel like that's certainly something that I faced in the beginning whenever we had like thousands of club applications to fill out and so many other things like NSO and stuff. But I think just going down to like, if I really like to live by this one thing that one of my vice principals at high school used to tell me about: if it's meant for you, like you'll get it. Like you're not late, you're not early in anything that's happening in your life. It's like going to come to you if it's really meant to be. And I think that's certainly something that I like to remind myself, because yeah, I know there's like tons of things that I've missed out on applications, or like something that I should have went to, but I know that I didn't meet so and so at this event or something. But just knowing that if it is meant for me, it'll come back to me, or I am where I am.
And we're also on our own timeline.
Yeah, for sure. I really like the idea of like the fact that fate is like such a huge thing. And I know that there are some people that like probably don't believe in the idea of like fate or like anything just coming to you naturally because it's meant for you and such. But I guess it's also something that I also love to think about, like, wow, like, hey, if I didn't know about it, then it's probably not for me. And I also agree with the fact that like coming into Penn, like I didn't even realize that club apps were like that intense. But also in the end, it's like, okay, if I didn't do these club apps or these program apps, then hey, it's probably like not the move. Maybe there was a different reason why or such. And even if I really wanted it, then hey, it'll come back to me next semester or even the next like 3 years I'll be here at Penn. And yeah, I'm gonna admit like I am not, like, currently I'm not doing that many clubs. My main focus is really like just explore what's there, because going back to what you said about like what Penn has, like, wow, yeah, there's a huge array of opportunities that are like literally right in front of me, and like it really feels like I'm not even taking advantage of them at all. And it kind of sucks because like, first of all, like again, like you have that reminder like that like you're living probably anyone's, like any high schooler's dream of being in such a prestigious school, and to feel like you're not taking like huge advantage of everything. Like it's also kind of part of the imposter syndrome like experience or the overall FGLI experience. But again, like the reminder of like that, like if something's not like there for you, then it's probably not meant for you. I don't know if that actually sounds like pretty weirdly worded now, but like the idea of like fate, it's really important, I guess, or at least that's what I believe in. Like anyone's entitled to their own beliefs about fate.
Yeah, I'm editing an episode right now that we had with Dr. Brisson, like one of the bio professors, and he kind of explained it in this way, or he explained kind of like fate or luck in this way, where there's like two sides to luck. There's where luck is like the doors that are opening, right? For like certain opportunities. So it's like a matter of luck whether or not like a door like is opened for you, and that's just like completely like fate or like luck. Like if you like run into this door, then it's just like by chance. But the part that you can kind of control is essentially like getting to that door and then like being there and then ready for when it opens. um you know, it sounded really profound, but now that I'm thinking about it, it might not be as profound. But I think he did a better job of explaining it than I did.
Yo, that's crazy.
But
That's
I
crazy.
also feel like that's a cue to go watch that podcast and see what he actually has to say about fate, because
Yeah.
I feel like if I didn't like believe in fate, I feel like I would like beat myself up too much about like things that I've missed. And I feel like that's certainly something that I like have to just know that like it's going to happen for me, because my experience of coming to Penn, like I never imagined me being here, and yeah, I'm here. Like they offered me such valuable opportunities for me.
You guys are being really cool people, bro. I feel like throughout my experience, I think like leading up to college, like I felt like I've never really gotten those words until now, and now it's kind of like low key this experience, like as we're recording right now, like
That's what I was
that's
thinking
kind of
earlier.
changing me right now, guys. Guys.
No, yeah. Actually, for me, it's a bit of the opposite. To be honest, especially the concept of fate. Um, because for me, if like this is on like my own system of belief that for me, if like things like were fated to happen, I wouldn't have like taken risks in my life. I would have chosen to just like be comfortable and like never really go out of like my comfort zone, because I'm a really awkward person. I don't know if that shows through this podcast, but I am, and I try to like avoid situations where like mostly like talking to people. I'm not the most social. However, like a lot of those experiences, especially like the one of going out and getting like my first job, or like being like emotionally vulnerable with like my coworker about whom I ended up writing my thank you letter about, and I ultimately got into like Penn with, or like a lot of different options. Like I remember like my first like as soon as I arrived here, I realized that I needed money, and my aunt, my guardian didn't really want me to like work, so then I looked for a paid internship, and which it was a loophole, I guess. And then I ended up finding that, and then I ended up staying with like them as a volunteer for like many years. So like a lot of those things, like I feel like if things were supposed to happen, I wouldn't have I wouldn't, like a lot of the decisions, a lot of the errors, especially like a lot of like my mistakes that have made me like the person who I am today. Um, Everything would be a lot different, and I feel like things, I don't know how they would have panned out if I had just like left, like things happened. But yeah, for me, I feel like I needed that motivation of like things won't just happen. Like things won't just like occur. Things you need to like do something for like them to happen, to actually like try to like to pursue something. Because like when I came over here from Peru, it was a really weird situation, because like I was supposed to stay here just for like a week or so, but then COVID happened, and then I couldn't go back for like a month. But then I told my parents, okay, I can just do like school here, it's fine. And then like I don't really consider that fate, because like I could have gone back at like that point, but we had already started like doing some of the processes for school here. But I had a choice at that point, and I chose, and I keep choosing, and I keep like taking different choices and different paths, and kept doing like different things in my life that ultimately have like led me to who I am today. So also I don't really like believe in like that like there's a fate like planned for like me at least. I don't know about other people. I think like everybody is entitled to like their own systems of belief, but mine is not really one that considers that as a part of how I live life. So I don't know. That's why I'm trying to I'm trying to do things that I know that if I had just stayed in Philadelphia right now, I wouldn't be here in Utah. And if I wasn't here in Utah right now, I would have. I need to do some stuff over here, but I had a choice in that moment for choosing to do that. I had the same choice to applying to Penn out of a lot of the universities, and of writing the essay for Penn, because I could have just not, but eventually I did, and that's what occurred. So I don't know. I feel like that's the way in which I approach it, but I also understand the first concept, and that's also one that I could consider a lot, and one that I considered a lot, especially up until a few years ago. Or I don't know. I feel like it differs for me. It changes over time. It really does.
I definitely agree. Life is really you really don't expect what's coming to you. And I know that all of us can definitely agree that wow, we definitely at first we did not think that we would be able to be at Penn or even in college in general. So just to have that thought in the back of your head that hey, who knows what's going to happen. Most of the time it's going to be for the best. So that's why I personally feel like we should definitely stay a little more definitely optimistic about what's to come, even if we have all these feelings of imposter syndrome or even just overall the negative challenges that we feel as FGLI students. In the end, it's going to get better, just the way that we somehow got into college.
Yeah, I think we just rebuilt the metaphor that the professor was trying to talk about, that I did a really bad job of summing up. But I think essentially combining all of these ideas where whether or not you get an opportunity or go through that door is just fully based off of luck, but the matter of getting to that door and taking the risks and making the choices that you make are in your control, essentially. And being able to make it to the door and be ready for when it opens is something that you should be proud of as well. For example, applying to Penn, whether or not you get into Penn, I don't want to say it's luck, but it's not a guarantee, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. But by taking the step or making a bunch of different choices, like Nicolle said, along the way, you're able to be there and ready for when those opportunities happen. I feel applying to Penn is a big example, but in smaller examples in everyday life as well. And I guess it's not to say that to beat yourself down for not being there and ready, but more of you did as much as you could, and then you did as much as you could to make it there, essentially, at that door, and then that should be something that you are proud of. And then I also wanted to reiterate, being FGLI plus introverted and having social anxiety is a triple triple
yeah. Yeah, certainly hard.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that a lot, but somehow started a podcast despite all of that.
I remember Peter told me that in the first couple of times that I met you. He's like, yeah, I'm introverted. I'm like, how did you start a podcast?
That's crazy.
It's I feel like having a podcast is something that you are letting people hear your stories and very vulnerable moments of yourself. And kudos to Peter, because honestly, I really don't know how I could have, if I were in a spot to start a podcast. I really don't know how I would have done it. So snaps to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Triple kill. But I think we're coming a little bit to the end of our time. I did also want to mention an interesting thing that I learned about in one of my sociology classes as well at Penn, where it's the idea of, I guess, upbringing, especially being first gen low income, and also growing up as people of color as well, where oftentimes I think in the predominant society where people are doing well, especially if they're coming from more affluent families, they're raised to kind of take initiative and make more choices. And the example that was given by one of the authors in a paper I read was essentially like in a classroom where you have a person who grew up in a rich family and a person who grew up in a poor family, like in regardless of like race or like other matters. The person who grew up in like the wealthier family would be like, oh, this window is like there's light that's shining on me, and it's like getting annoying. I can't see the board. Can you like help like close the window to like the teacher? Whereas the person in like the lower income family would kind of like just like roll with it, if that makes sense. And it's, I guess, like kind of a thing. I think we were talking about this before, Nicolle, where it's in, I guess, like lower income families, it's a lot of kind of like following like the rules versus, and kind of like there are obstacles, but you kind of like navigate around them versus kind of like just like pushing ahead. And I think that kind of like shows in like the like whether or not you're like introverted as well, and you're not really like you weren't like trained, so to say, to like really be like a trailblazer, if that makes sense. Like being Figly, you do have to like really like pull yourself up by your bootstraps and kind of like just like push through, but it's like a different kind of like push through, if that makes sense. Like for like networking, for example, I don't think I could just like as a freshman just like go up to like random people and start like asking them questions. And it is like a skill that is like built over time, but for like other families where that is more natural, I guess I'm trying to say like I don't want to like also like put myself down for it, because it's not a skill that I've trained, and it's a skill that other people are probably like very used to and it comes natural to them. But that's also like not any fault of my own. It's just like due to like my upbringing.
And I think like something that brings that full circle is like we've had all of these experiences, and like there's things that I personally wish that could have been different as I was growing up, but like honestly, I don't think I would have wanted to change anything. And I feel like we talk about these experiences of like my parents couldn't help me. My parents couldn't provide this for me. But like, I feel like that has made me who I am today. And that has made me like just be more grateful for where I've ended up like all these years later. So yeah.
So yeah, no, I would say that it certainly like adds a layer of difficulty because I've seen I've seen my roommates who I love very much. They're also like from a similar background, from different like places in the country. However, they are like more extroverted than I am, and they have been able to like go out and like form a community around them, form a community of especially like Latino friends. They all have group chats. They all like see each other, but they did like their best. They like pursued all of that, and now it's great. And they also have like communities also like especially like low income students also from like our building, and it's just fantastic to see. Or I think about it and I'm like, oh wow, that's terrifying to me. That would be like scary, and that and the fact that like the friends that I have are like my roommates, and I also have like a few other friends from also from here from school. We all do have like similar backgrounds, but we all kind of like found each other by like chance. And I'm so happy that they like stuck like with me like through all of this, because being introverted and especially being low income is like an experience that um like really like involves around of like a lot of my relationships with people. So having like people who are like similar to me, but then also knowing like others who are like different from like class projects, uh from like especially class or just like seeing them around or like talking with them like a few times. I don't know. I'm not really sure what I wanted to go with that, but yeah, it's a lot. I've seen like the difference that not being introverted, but still figly can make, especially like on acquiring friends, connections, and being able to like establish yourself and find your footing here in the university, especially can cause and like a difference that is when you are introverted and like you're just like you're awkward like I am, which I'm fine with. Um, I so yeah, so it's different, but it's not something that I like that I dislike, and it's not something that I like feel myself for. Like to the contrary, I'm happy with like who I am like right now. I'm happy with like things that have happened in like my life. And yeah, and it's yeah. So I'm happy with that. It's certainly different. It's something that I have observed, and that at the beginning really like costed a lot to like come to terms with. Or like no, I feel like it's not something that's essentially bad.
Oh, sorry. I also do want to add on, like, it kind of just made me remember, like, how many factors there are when it comes to, like, learning about someone's upbringing. Like, I kind of just remembered, like, when I took, like, AP psychology and, like, all the way back in, like, high school sophomore year, like, there was, like, I think there was, like, this chapter about, like, the way, like, personality or, like, how someone is built from the way that they have grown up as. So, and, like, that, or even, like, that also involves like even political like beliefs, but that's like another topic. But in terms of like even someone's own personality, like there's so many factors to how that's built, and that can even come from like, again, like I guess reflecting some of the elements that we've already talked about throughout the episode. It's like there's, first of all, like the area they live in where everyone is in one group, they're all somewhat similar in some way, and that's like the good thing about college, is that you get to go outside of that circle that you've been in for like 18 years even. And like another factor could even be like your own parents. Like they have such a huge influence like over how you, I guess, develop as a person. Like, and even like traditional values. Like if your parents are like traditional, you're obviously going to probably grow up at least understanding those traditional values, and kind of like your own personality reflects that. Like going back to the study that Peter, that you mentioned, I think in your sociology class, like seeing that like that like in like sometime like I guess in general or based on the study, right? Like students from the lower income, I guess like groups or families tend to be a little more quiet, or kind of like just be chill, like even if they're uncomfortable with like the environment, like how cold it is, or like the light of the yeah, like asking for help. Like low-key I can relate to that, because now that I think about it, like when it comes to my parents, like my parents also kind of like do something similar. And like just reflecting on my own personality, like sometimes like I admit that like, wow, I'm low-key like just like my parents, low-key. Yeah. And it's really interesting, like there's people who have parents who probably are like take a lot more initiative, and that kind of like just bounces onto the child. And like there are so many other factors that comes to how someone is when it comes to taking initiative, asking for help, and being able to, you know, be open to the opportunities. And it really goes back to that quote that you also mentioned from the professor, I believe, that like it's really up to you on how you approach the door, on how you approach the opportunity. The way like you're the one that's in charge of how you take that initiative. And that could even be as simple as asking for help, or even raising your hand. And yeah, I think that's such an interesting like thing. And low-key, now I kind of want to study that.
Sociology.
Sociology. I mean, it's something that I've always like kind of been interested in. Like right now I'm even taking a sociology class a lot in our lives, and that in itself is like really interesting. But yeah, maybe so, yeah.
Yeah. I'm normally like a STEM person, but I wish I majored in sociology.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Well, you're a sociology major, right, Nicolle? Hopefully.
No, I'm in an intro to sociology class. It's really fun. I really enjoy it.
Nice. Before we end, do you guys have any parting words of advice?
I feel like if I had to give any advice to like me or like any people who are in the college process right now, I can certainly say that this year has been like a very big year of reflection, as a lot of my friends back home are applying to college right now. And I think the only things that I would say is it's going to be okay. Because I remember like spending hours and days and so much crying. Oh my gosh, the amount of times that I've like felt frustrated with like college applications. Like you're going to end up where you need to be. And when you do, like you're going to be so happy. And I think that's the only thing that I have to say. Like, take it easy, enjoy it, because honestly, I remember the first day that I moved here into Penn, like, it's surreal whenever you get to college. It's the whole experience is amazing. So take it easy on yourself.
You got this.
Yeah, and adding on to that, definitely it's going to be okay for sure. It's like when you talked about like the fact that like during the college app process, like that was such a hard time. Yeah, I literally just got like flashbacks like to me like downing Celsius like energy drinks at like 12 a.m. in the morning, like trying to speed up my little like my writing supplements and like finalizing my applications. But another advice I would probably give is really like I guess take advantage of the time that you have in high school. I feel like I haven't really spent high school, like my time at high school enough, and that's something I really want to do in college. Like I don't want to spend my entire like 4 years simply just studying or only looking at the internship opportunities or like looking forward to jobs or like adulthood even. Like I feel like I rushed adulthood in high school for the sake of my own future, but like I think as a teenager you naturally have to be able to have times where you're going to be social and like go out of your own comfort zone. And like that's another like really big advice that I probably have for literally anyone, low-key, like literally go out of your comfort zone. Because going back to the theme, like one of the themes that we kind of went over, which is like in life is unexpected, like unexpecting, like you're not going to know what's going to happen. And in order to take initiative or like be able to go out of your comfort zone, like you need to do something about that, which is go out, well, quite literally go out of your comfort zone, like do something that you never thought you would, but not in a bad way, guys. Not like don't think anything negative. In a way where it's like, okay, what if I did this club? What if I did this internship? Or what if I just talked to that professor? What if I just made a convo? Because you would never know what happens.
I think you made some really good points there. And one of the things that reminded me while you were talking about that is there's like this quote. I don't really remember exactly the wording of it, but it's like, I'm going to like say in my terms because I really don't remember the quote, but it was something like it's better to have a opportunity that fails than a missed opportunity. So like always take that opportunity, even if it doesn't work out, it's okay, but at least you did it. At least you know that it's not meant for you or it didn't turn out exactly the way you want it to. And you touched on this very slightly at the end. I think the role models that you have, take advantage of those people because honestly, I haven't talked about this, but my brother was, he's older than me, as you were talking about, like being an older sibling. And the amount of questions that I've asked him, I know he's annoyed by me, but like deep down, like I don't think I would have been here without him. So like honestly, be grateful for those relationships that really help you. And because those are timeless and priceless. And yeah.
I don't know, something that I always like try to keep in mind is to just like not let this whole thing that we're all going through like change you as a person, especially like who you are essentially, because that's what I like try to keep in mind, especially after like my sophomore year of high school, which was the year when I like did the best academically in like my whole like high school career, but it was also like when I was at my lowest, like my absolute lowest. Like just to like preface it, like my grandpa had died at the beginning of the year, and I hadn't been able to go to Peru to see that. So just keeping that in mind, that kind of like shaped my whole year in a way, and it made it like really hard for me to try to put other things in my mind to like distract myself from grief and from like overall like confusion and like not knowing what to do at that point, that I just like put my all into like my academics, and I saw that my grades were like the best that they had ever been and stuff like that. But I wasn't happy at all. However, like I had friendships from like the previous year with whom I still am friends with. They are amazing people. I started like trying to like talk with them more like the end of the year, especially. I tried to be back to being a bit with myself and not just like somebody who like spent her lunch finishing her homework so that she could go home and just like sleep because I didn't have like effort. Like I didn't have strength to do anything. I tried to like actually like see things like in a better light. I tried to like, even though it wasn't hard. It still is like really hard. I tried to like actually like talk with my friends in school more. Actually like talk with my friends, talk with people in my class, because I tried to like not lose myself. Like during that year, I tried to like actually like to actually like be back to being a little bit more of myself. And then like my junior year was so much better because of that. I managed to like actually like get back into like things that I liked and discover more things that I did that have like given me like such comfort to now. I got especially more into like music, especially more into like media, especially like into a lot of things that I'm now into. And I remember like a lyric from a song was it was I'm a stitch away from making it and a scar away from falling apart, which was how I felt like that whole year, because I was like so close to like making it, but I was like so close also to just like completely falling apart. But that like really helped me so much. So like my best advice is just like try not to lose yourself. That's what I put in my like in my college application. I try to stay like as true to myself and not just like seem like the perfect candidate, not refine my essays 10 million times, but it's like do my best to like show who I am, and if they want it, like the real me, like who like has like some niche interests and who's also like awkward and who's like all of that like there, but it actually like tries her best, like do the things that she's passionate about. So yeah, that's my advice. Just try to like not lose yourself. That's the most important thing.
Awesome. Thank you guys again for recording this episode. If anyone else wants to check out any of more of our episodes on the FGLI podcast, please look at our Spotify at the FGLI podcast or our Instagram at FGLI podcast. Yeah. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.